One of the Hey guys, welcome back to the Athlete Stories podcast. This podcast is brought to you by WODproof. WODproof recently launched a new program that helps pro members improve their mobility and their range of motion while becoming better at overall athletes. WODproof Bionic, it tracks and analyzes movement in real time with the goal of providing unique mobility plans for each user. It's really awesome. If you want to learn more, there's a link in the show notes to check it out. Also, this show is brought to you by X Endurance Supplements. X Endurance is one of the only products out there that's approved by Informed Sport for professional athletes. So you know that you can be comfortable putting their products in your body to increase your performance, increase your recovery time, and become a better overall athlete. Thank you, X Endurance. There's a link in the show notes for them as well. Back to the show. Tasia, how are you today?
Hey, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being on. For the audience that may not know, Tasia is a 3 times CrossFit Games athlete, 2 times team champion, and you're a retired competitive gymnast. You also work for CrossFit Mayhem. We're going to get into all of that stuff. So thanks for being on the show again. And first question is, I've struggled with your last name, like remembering how it's spelled. I haven't tried to say it. And I didn't want to Google it because I just want you to teach it to me.
Okay.
And I didn't want to ask before the show because I thought this might be fun if I mess it up for the audience. It might be entertaining. Percevecz?
No.
Okay.
It's Percevecz.
Percevecz?
I think it looks like the way you said it. I get that a lot. Even my first name, sometimes people, if you pronounce it almost front to back, they'll say Tasia instead of Tasia. But in grade school, always growing up, my name got butchered all the time, just throughout my entire life. I'm not offended ever. I'm so used to it. I'm just like, oh, if you're anywhere near it, hey, I'm here.
Yeah. It's Percevecz? Is that?
Percevecz. Yep. And then
Okay.
imagine spelling it on the phone because P, E, C, V, and Z literally all sound the same. So I'm one of those people. I don't know if you had your parents would be like, P as in Peter. E.
Yeah.
See, that's me. I'm like just giving letters to cats and animals to try and get people to spell it correctly.
Because mine is Graybeals, but it's not anywhere near as complicated as yours. But I'm so used to being Jared, Jared, Graybeal, Gray, B as in boy, EAL.
Yes.
So they don't write V as in Victor. But
it's easy to mess those up, confuse them, and they all sound the same.
I know, and then it's so annoying because you may not get the email you're supposed to or the letter you're waiting on, and what ethnicity is that, or I guess background? I don't know if ethnicity is the right word. Nationality, is that the right word?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, it's Polish. So
Okay.
I have a decent amount of Eastern European in me, and Polish is one of those. So Polish and Italian, but I'm pretty sure the last name I've been told is Polish.
Okay. What all ethnicities are you? You're Polish, clearly.
Yes, Polish, Italian. I should know more. I actually did get one of those 23andMe's, and it breaks it down into all these small percentages. So I have a bunch in me. I'm mostly Eastern European, but I've got little traces of. I'm trying to think of one that was super unique, but yeah, I should know better than I do.
Yeah, I did. I don't know if it was 23andMe or Heritage.
Okay.
Maybe Heritage, and it's so weird. How are you 2% of something and then 17% of another thing? It just makes you think about your whole family. What were they doing? But I ended up having Spanish, but it's southern Spain, more Spaniard, white
Cool.
people Spanish, basically.
Yeah.
And so then I just texted all my Spanish friends and I was like, hey, you got to invite me to these family barbecues and stuff now because I'm Spanish.
You're
it's
like,
the
I've got
same.
this.
I may not be able to dance and stuff, but I'll figure it out. I just want to come to these big family gatherings that you guys do because white people don't typically do that stuff. We have
Yeah.
We grill cheeseburgers with a small group from time to time or something. We don't
Yeah,
have
I always
loud.
Sure, I rely on my Italian heritage, for like, we eat pasta and pizza and like big family. My family is a loud family. So that's another thing where I'm just always like, we're Italian, we're really loud, which I don't know if that's a fair assessment, but yeah, we love to just have fun and be loud.
Yeah, I think for the most part, I would agree. My nonna is 100% Italian. She's from Italy. And so my dad's like half, and I don't know, something around a quarter. And she's very loud, and he's very loud as an extension of her. Or she was. She passed away. But you ever had pastels? Petzel? They're like these cookies that she would make. And I think that I don't know, she made them as a kid. I didn't particularly like them. They were weird cookies, but the petzels?
I actually don't
No?
know. I don't think I've had them. My mom wasn't much of a big cook, so
Okay. Yeah, like my nonna made everything from like handmade salads to the pasta and lasagna. So I'm like jaded. I can't really truly enjoy Italian food at like a restaurant because I'm like, it's
you have
good.
the real stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Although I've never had a bad pizza, that's for sure.
Me
Uh,
either. I love Little Caesars, so I'm like,
yeah, like it doesn't matter to me at all. Yeah. Okay.
oh,
So
here we go.
have you ever had these before?
Yes, I actually have. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So she would
They're
make these all the
beautiful.
time. Yeah. I think they're cooler to look at than they are to eat, if I'm being honest.
Mm,
But she would make them, and like, of course, I love them, but I was just more like, no, I just get some chocolate chip cookies next time. Like
yeah. You
these are
could put chocolate on top of those. That
you
might make it a
could.
little bit better.
Hey Tasia, if you were a character in any movie, who would you be?
A character in any movie. That is a really hard question. I want to be Moana. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's who I choose to be and want to be because she's just like fearless, out doing whatever on the water, singing. She's got great hair.
Alex, can you pull her up? She's from the with the movie with like The Rock. The Rock is like or am I thinking of a different?
Wait, it's a kids movie, Moana?
Yeah. But like he
Yeah, yeah,
plays like
yeah.
the voice
I think he plays the voice of one of the characters.
like so. Okay, let's look at this. Yeah, so The Rock is the dude, the big dude, and
Yes.
then that's one. Okay, I see that. I can.
That's what I want
Yeah,
to be.
you get to choose to be whoever you want.
Thank you.
Um, we had this fun. I don't know. I don't want to call it a practice, but like at Wadapalooza, there was a group of us that stayed in an Airbnb, and we basically identified like whose character. I don't know. Everybody, pretty much all the athletes for lab. We were just identifying who was what character, and it was really fun. So ever since then, I just asked a question on the podcast.
Man, what's the best one you've got?
Well, I don't know if you know Zach Long. He works with lab management. But his character was really funny. It was somebody off of Bob's Burgers. But I think all the characters that we decided for Danielle Brandon were really funny. Who is it? Who's the blonde girl off Rugrats?
Oh, oh my gosh. I haven't seen Rugrats in so long.
And then the blonde
Angelica or something?
Angelica,
No.
100%.
Okay.
And then the blonde girl off of I think the Wild Thornberries or something like that.
Okay.
There's a handful that fit her really well. And then I think Alex was pulling it up, but they, for whatever reason, think that I seem to fit the saber-toothed tiger off of Ice Age.
I love that.
So, I mean, like, it was funny because I think it was meant to be not a hit, but more or less like offensive in some way. And
Yes.
I was like, I'll take that. I don't mind that. I'll
Yes,
be a
that's a
saber-toothed
great
tiger.
character. Yeah.
So, he was relatively intellectual, but also protective. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Strong, cunning. I
All
don't know.
good qualities. Cunning.
So what did you think about the CrossFit Open? What was your opinion on that? How did you enjoy it? I know that you probably did it. But what did you think about the workouts?
So for me, not competing, just enjoying the open. I did all the open workouts, but I knew I wasn't going to be continuing on. I had so much fun with it. I felt like the workouts were maybe a little bit more, I don't want to say base level, but better for the average CrossFitter to complete. So I thought that was cool since we have multiple stages now. You could see that there was a difference from before that, okay, the open is going to be like a specific stage that's going to be more encompassing to the general population. And then from there, get higher skill as we're going to see in quarterfinals this weekend. I know that there's probably people who didn't love the simplicity of it, but I really did. I had a lot of fun. The first workout, I totally went out way too hard and thought I was like still a CrossFit athlete and totally redlined at like 7 minutes. It was just awful. So that was my least favorite. And then the last one, because of the high school gymnastics, was my most favorite.
Yeah, I can imagine. I did the first two, which was awesome. Because those are like fun workouts for me. I like all those movements. But the third one, like I just don't really do gymnastics really from the rig anymore because my right labrum's still torn. And so any hanging is like, nah.
Hurts.
I went to warm up. I was like, I'll do it at what we call a sexy pace over here.
I like it.
And so I was like, I'll do it at a sexy pace. And then I did some warm up pull-ups and chest to bar and muscle ups. And I was like, this is going to hurt so bad for, I don't remember what, 12 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no point, so
Yeah,
I was like, we have so much. I was like, I want to deadlift today. I want to do some monostructural. If I do this, like I'm done. So
yeah.
I just skipped it. But that looked like the funnest one to me for somebody with a healthy shoulder, especially because like the double unders were like a non-factor.
Yes.
It was more just like
I love that.
like some seasoning, it
Yes.
wasn't really so that, yeah. And I do like thrusters a lot. So I'm gonna like end up doing that one maybe later when my shoulder's better, just to see.
Yeah. When your shoulder feels good, you should do it because it was fun for I speak for, I guess, someone who's not trying to like totally push their absolute limit and complete it at the fastest pace possible, like these girls and guys going sub 5. I'm sure it wasn't really fun for them, but for me, it was a great time. So
Yeah,
I think you would like it.
Yeah, I would too. And it's like when you're like, I do really enjoy gymnastics when my shoulder feels good. Like stringing together pull-ups, chest to bar, muscle ups, like that's a fun thing to do when you feel good until you're like toasted. But so yeah, I'm a little bummed I didn't get to do that one, but it just made the most sense. Ironically, I tore it on the last open in the 20.3, 21.3. And so this time I was like, oh shoot, this is cool because it's like half the reps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I was just like, nah. So I'll revisit it later on.
Did you tear it on like pull-ups and stuff?
Yeah, so like I probably had a torn labrum since I've started CrossFit, just from like bodybuilding and powerlifting days of bench pressing and pushing the limits there. Like I've always just had pain here. But then, starting CrossFit and recognizing like lack of mobility, right? Because when I came into CrossFit, I was probably like 195. I'm like 185 now, but 195, like I was benching, I don't know, close to 400 back then. So you can imagine I didn't have like snatch mobility. I didn't have gymnastics mobility. Like I probably was stuck here when I started CrossFit. You know what I mean? And so just over time, like forcing those movements, I had more and more pain. But then in 21.3, like basically when I finished, I was like, my shoulder, something wrong with my shoulder. Like I was like, I shouldn't have even finished that. And it was really during the muscle ups that I was like towards the end of it, it was like all left arm.
Yeah, because I don't mean to smile at you, but I'm team torn labrum too, and I just same thing, just like positionally snatching heavy for so long when I first started CrossFit and not having that ankle hip mobility. And I watched some of my old snatches because I'm strong and I naturally can gain muscle pretty easily, which is a blessing in some extent. But I just would like catch and be like, and over time, right? It was like one day I didn't notice until like after. I'm like, yeah, something's really wrong. And then really the next, after you sleep on it, I don't know if this happened for you, the wake up the next morning, okay, this is real.
Yeah, you're like, it's not just inflammation like normal, like this thing is torn up.
Yeah.
I got an MRI and basically I think they were like, your labrum's been torn for years, but I ended up tearing the bicep and my infraspinatus,
Okay. Yeah.
which, obviously should support the shoulder girdle. And it's like, basically the way they explain it is like, you can have a torn labrum and get away with it for a while, but when everything else starts to tear, then the supportive structure just gives up on itself. So now it just is like inflammation like crazy if I decide to do pull-ups, and like I can get away with it. It's just like in my mind, I'm like, ouch. Like,
and it's totally not worth it.
Yeah. Like the way that I'm learning over time, hopefully I got stem cell last year and like 2 rounds of it and 3 rounds of PRP, just because I was on that road trip throughout almost a whole year. Surgery would have been difficult, like in an Airbnb in the middle of nowhere or something, so now I'm, reconsidering all those things. But as I train, it's like, well, I'm just not going to do gymnastics so I can get away with doing, Olympic, where I don't really snatch much, but like cleans, deadlifts, I can do most metcons as long as there's not hanging. So like, if I don't do that, then I do the other stuff. But if I do the gymnastics, then the next day I'm like, I can't do anything. So just kind of like learning which battles to fight and learning which workouts. I'm like, nope, I'm not going to do that. I'll switch with this other thing. So having fun with it. Still grateful that I get to move and stuff. Some days I'm like, all right, my arm is on fire. I'm done.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's a testament just to the sport and life. You got to pick and choose sometimes and grow, become smarter, more, the old you probably been like, yeah, just do it and then take a hit. But you've learned from those experiences. So
yeah, I'll say I was, I guess, proud of my lack of ego maybe in the third workout of the open. I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's like I wanted to do it because I thought, this is this is a pretty good workout for me if I can push through the pain. But then I was like, it may not be a good workout because it might be so painful. And I was like, what's the point? And I was like, don't do it at all, And so it was like, oh, look at me growing.
Yes.
Learning.
I love that.
So that was nice. I was like a little pat on the back for myself, I guess.
Yeah.
What do you think about the quarterfinal like floor plans schemes? There's a couple. I don't want to say unusual because every year is a little unusual. That's CrossFit, but like, what do you think about the floor plans?
I'm super excited looking at the floor plans, mostly because like when I look at them, I think about Haley and what combinations are going to come out for her. And I know there's like a ring GHD and like a spot of space one. Obviously Mayhem does a ton of ring, core smasher, ring muscle up type things. So when I see a GHD, I'm pumped about that. And then there looks like a deficit handstand push-up one, which again, Mayhem does a bunch of that stuff. So those two I'm really excited about. Me personally, I love seeing a rack, just a barbell. What is it going to be? I found it interesting though. I don't know if this is true. You could probably give me clarity, but they named that there needed to be a bench, but there's not a bench in any of the floor plans.
Yeah. So that, I think Ariel commented on the CrossFit Games Instagram and asked about the bench, and they said they're updating the schematics with the bench in it. I think they're just messing with people, but what do you think about the bench? What do you think that we'll see if there's a bench involved?
I would hope that if there's a bench involved, it would be within a workout, not just like a 1-rep bench. I do think that would maybe skew the leaderboard a lot. And if you saw something that was more, Linda-esque, not necessarily Linda, but just like a bench within a workout where you might be a little bit more fatigued, I think that would be a more accurate representation. I guess that's my opinion.
Yeah. There's a couple options. I think there's that one workout with the dumbbells. So there could be some type of dumbbell bench press in the Metcon. But then, there's the rack, and I don't think that we'll see a 1-rep or a 3-rep max. I just think with the lack of the emphasis in CrossFit programming, with heavy bench, that would be unsafe to see something like that. Like relatively unsafe to all the other movements that these people are doing. There's like no preparation there. But my opinion, and some people are like, 50-50 on this, is like a combine style test, like maybe not 225, 155, but maybe like 135, 205 for max reps or something like that. Because that's a performance indicator. 1-rep max isn't necessarily an athletic performance indicator because it it skews the leaderboard dramatically. Like if you can do a 1 rep max, it doesn't mean you're fit.
No.
But 205 for reps, you get 27 reps or 19 reps. Like that's pushing strength. And anyways, so I think if it's in the rack, maybe that. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't hate that. I would like that much better than, like you said, like a 1 rep or a 3 rep. I would love to see dumbbell bench in a workout just because, that happens a lot here too. But we'll see.
Yeah, the Mayhem bodybuilding.
Yeah.
All right, what are we looking at, Alex?
This is the rope climb one.
Yeah, and I think in this one, maybe he just wants us to talk a little bit about it, which I want to. I think we're going to see shuttle runs. What do you think?
Wow, I didn't even think about that. Shuttle runs?
Yeah, because we already saw there's a lot of there's strict handstand push-ups or deficit handstand push-ups. Like we've got a lot of overhead, like upside down hand work. I don't know what we call that more professionally. So I don't know if we'll see handstand walks here. There's a lot of already pushing. So
I'm still going to say handstand walk. I don't think a shuttle run would be a bad thing. I think it'd be really interesting to watch. 25 feet. Yeah, because that would be interesting. We'll see.
Yeah, and I think we were supposed to see shuttle runs in 21.1, but it was, or 22.1, but it was taken out. So I think they'll see those here. But I'm no Brian friend, so we'll see.
Is that what Brian said?
No, I'm just saying he's the analyst. I'm spitballing.
I'm always curious how they are able to validate. Like if you do a shuttle run based upon where this camera is, how are you going to make sure the person touches that line? Because these all have to be videotaped. So it's not just a judge. They all have to be video submitted. So I'm always like, can you rule things out based upon what, like a dumbbell bench, like how do you position that so you know that like both arms are hitting depth?
Yeah, that's true.
That's where my mind goes, but just food for thought.
No, that's great.
I agree. I think every year we introduce something new, and so like how we judge it is also introduced, and there's always some kickback because it's new, but obviously maybe the camera angle, like the dumbbell is gonna have to touch shoulder or pec or something, like the dumbbell, so we've evolved over time. That they've probably figured out some way of measuring a shuttle run or a dumbbell bench. I'm excited to see it. This one looks a lot like the floor plan for the third workout of the Zalis game. I don't know if you remember that or are familiar with that.
What was that one?
We did, actually, I don't remember it off the top of my head. Alex, do you remember it? It was what, 30, 20, 10, 30, maybe 30 cow row, 20 burpee box jump over.
Yeah, it was but it was
it the opposite?
A bunch of snatches.
Yeah, the barbell snatches were there was 30 of them.
I want to say
I made this workout up. I don't know. I don't remember it.
Yeah, there were 50 snatches at 95.
And then you rest until 10 minutes and then do a max weight snatch, like full snatch, hang snatch, overhead squat. But the setup was exactly like this. We had, I think it was like 20, 30, 40, and then go back down.
Yeah, it was something where it went down, it escalated, like went up and went down. I just remember doing a lot of snatches and a lot of burpee box overs.
Yeah, I think it was 20, 30, 40, and then 30, 20 back down, like 20 cow row, 30 burpee box jump over, 40 snatches, and then you go back 30, back 20. I think that was what it was.
Sounds painful.
It was a fire breather for sure. And then 2 minutes later, you're doing your max weight and snatches. And I think we saw the best weight was like 330 for men.
That's crazy.
I got it. So it was 20 burpee box jump overs, 25 cal row, 30 snatches, 25 cal row, 20 burpee box jump overs. And then the part B was 10 minutes, or at 10 minutes, sorry, you have 5 minutes to establish a max weight of 1 squat snatch, 1 hang squat, 1 overhead squat.
There it is.
And you had to load your own bar too. Not a lot of wasted time in that one.
I know, that was fun. We learned a lot from that one. We'll probably give more time for a max weight, but we still saw some crazy impressive lifts.
I bet. I feel like people almost do better sometimes when they're like so fatigued, but just going for it. Like it takes that fear and that pressure sometimes of that feeling of being on like a weightlifting platform away and just getting after it. I've
Yeah,
hit
you
some
just
of
gotta
like my
go.
best lifts when I was super fatigued.
Yeah, you can't like I overthink Olympic lifting for sure. So if it's like I give all this time to walk up to the bar and like roll my hands around it and find my if it's like go go go, then I usually end up doing better because I don't
Yeah,
have time to think. I think Emma Carey won that with a 185 snatch
that's
complex.
impressive.
Yeah, and it was clean. It wasn't like gritty looking, because typically at the end of end of a Metcon,
Sure.
you see some gritty lifting. And then Ioannis Papadopoulos, I think is how you say his name. He's obviously in a different country. He goes by John Pop,
Okay.
but I think he did maybe like right at 300 for that complex or something
It's
crazy.
impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, back to you. Tasia, if you could describe yourself in 3 words, what would they be?
3 words. There's a large vocabulary. I would say loving, determined,
Love
sometimes
it.
to a fault, and joyful.
Love it. And I know most people hate this question, but bear with me. If you could give me your life story in like 2 to 3 minutes, what would you choose to tell?
Oh man, 2 to 3 minutes. Well, I'd say I was born and raised in Arizona. I got 2 brothers, Caleb and Zach, and a sister, Tamar. My mom raised us. She's absolutely incredible, a superhero. Love her. So grateful for her. I grew up a gymnast, so sports have always been part of my life. Was very, very, very dedicated, with the goals and aspirations to go to the Olympics. I think I don't want to say like most young gymnasts, but it's pretty prevalent in the culture. Didn't make it to the Olympics. Not a shocker there, but ended up going on to compete in college at the University of New Hampshire, where I got my bachelor's in biology with the intent of going to PA school, but got sidelined by CrossFit. Found CrossFit, became super passionate about that, started competing in CrossFit, did a little bit, dabbled in the competitive space in CrossFit. And through the
Dabble.
process of that, I've, met so many cool people, changed my career path, and just loved the process, the refining process of CrossFit and like trying things different and pushing the limits of your body. And then the community side of it is like the biggest part to me. And the empowerment of women to be strong and bold and these things that have really just kind of helped form me and the passions that I have now as far as like just wanting to help women. And yeah, I guess that's it. Also a really huge part. I like went all around, but I became a believer in my early 20s. And that's my faith is a huge part of my life too, that I definitely carry with me every day. So
Were
was
you
that okay?
Yeah, you crushed it. Great 2 to 3 minutes there. Were you raised a believer and like stopped being one or what's the story there in terms of like finding God in your early 20s?
Sure. Yeah. So not really raised in the church. Like I said, my mom, she was a single mom and she was raising 4 of us kids. We're all pretty close in age. Like within my younger brother's 13 months apart from me. And then my older brother's 2 years and my sister above that is 4 years. So she had her hands really full, was working a ton. We did go to church sometimes, but it definitely wasn't something that I connected with or had any desire to pursue. And went off to college, got into trouble. I don't want to say it's like a similar story to a lot of people, but got myself into some trouble and some really difficult relationships that meanwhile I had this woman who's just pursuing me to be part of Athletes in a Varsity. It was like this Christian ministry on the campus. And she happened to be like coming into my life at this intersection of something that was like really dark and scary in my life. And she just taught me about Jesus and what love looks like. And from there, that's when I got baptized and my faith, you have stages as a believer, you have like stages of your faith. So like, I was like, yeah, I believe in God, I'm here. And now if I flash forward, cause that was in like, in 2021, it's like, not 21, oh my gosh, 11, 10 years later, and just how my faith has grown and how many testimonies that I have and how that's changed even just being in CrossFit has, developed my faith, and being at Mayhem has developed my faith. So not originally in like a big Bible believing home, but because of some hardships, I found my way to Christ, and yeah, I've been growing in that ever since.
Love that. Thank you for sharing that story. How did you get connected with Mayhem? I mean, as you were coming up in the CrossFit world, I'm sure you had options of where to go, who to spend your time with, who to eventually compete with. Obviously, competing with Rich is probably one of the top end accomplishments that you can choose. How did you get there?
Yeah, so definitely a testament to God's grace. But I had competed as an individual in 2016. I'd done pretty well there. I came in 15th at the games, and I actually had no desire to go team. I was like all in for 2017, and then, just pursuing my individual career. In 2017, that's when I tore my labrum and yada, yada. I was finishing up that year and just kind of in this space of looking for something. I knew where I was at was not where I was meant to be, but I didn't know where I was supposed to go. And I was actually on my way to a job interview that was going to be in Colorado. And I got a DM from CrossFit Mayhem Freedom. Thank goodness for Instagram. And it was like, hey, would you be interested in coming to try out the team for 2018? And this was still affiliate, because obviously we went affiliate, super team, affiliate. But I remember getting it and being kind of like, this is really weird, because it was never something on my radar that I had thought about. But obviously I knew who Rich was and what the team was. And I wasn't immediately like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. But I was like, you not even showing up to this, we call it like a recruit trip thing, would be a mistake. So we're going to go to this recruit trip. I started praying about it a ton leading up to it. And by the time I got to Cookeville for this first weekend there, I was like begging God, like, please let them like me, let them be fit enough. And like I had told you, I was rehabbing a torn labrum, so I wasn't back to 100%. And they knew that, but it was still this fear, like, will my labrum be good to compete? Like all these things, these fears and things. And by the end of that weekend, they're like, yeah, I mean, if you want to move here and be on the team, then let's do it. And a month later, that was like, I remember it was Halloween when I was there. I moved after Thanksgiving, and the rest is kind of history.
That's so cool. And you're, what are you up to now at Mayhem?
Yeah, so I help with, my main role is the Mayhem 30 program. So it's a 30-minute bodyweight minimal equipment program. We also have some spins on that, like Mayhem 30 Scaled and Mayhem 30 Moms. So that's my main focus, is that program, and just cultivating the everyday athlete environment. So, setting up the live streams, filming the videos. We do monthly challenges, things like that. I help a little bit with masters programming and compete programming here and there, and then just helping Haley with whatever she needs, just being her friend and a big sister to her. So
sounds like you have your hands full.
I do, in such a great way.
You're this kind of random circling back. Your sister's name's Tamar, right?
Yes.
And then, well, you told me like 5 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah. I'm like, how do you know?
And your name's Tasia. Where do those come from? Those are unique names.
Yeah, so funny enough, Tamar is a biblical name, Caleb's a biblical name, and then Zach is like, Zachariah is like kind of a biblical name. But Tasia, my mom said that she had originally wanted to name me Tasia, but spelt like Teja, like Teha-ish. And she was like telling somebody about it, and they're like, oh, like Asia with a T? And she just said, yeah. So she kind of like stole it from some random person or something. But yeah.
Well, they're both cool. I thought they were unique. What is your earliest childhood memory?
My goodness.
I told you.
I was like, I don't actually know what my earliest childhood memory. I don't have like, I'm one of those people that doesn't have a ton of childhood memories, and my roommate makes fun of me all the time about it. But I guess just maybe being in school, like being a kid in school, like nothing, I can't think of anything like specific. But
Nothing crazy that like your first memory, nothing crazy that happened?
No, for some reason, no. Do you have one that's really crazy?
I did. Of course, yeah,
Really?
I mean, kinda. Do you want me to tell you?
Kind of now.
Um, yeah, so my, first memory is at a preschool called Whistle Stop, and, this is in Bartow, Florida, which is, like, kind of a small town outside of Lakeland, Florida, which is where I'm actually from, and, so Whistle Stop, had these we were outside playing, and they had these, like, cars that you could race, but you have to go with your feet. You know what I mean? Like you're
Yeah.
driving, but like it's got wheels and you're using your feet, real Flintstone style. And I
Yeah.
remember, I don't know, I was being bullied or something like that. And I got in a fight with one of the kids that were racing, and you got kind of it wasn't pretty, and so I got kicked out of this preschool. And I was 4, so I remember that. That was my first
Dang.
memory.
Yeah, that's pretty legit. I'm like, do you ever wonder sometimes, like, that made me think of a memory that I think I have, but I'm not sure if it's my mom telling me the story that it's my memory or if it's really my memory. Does that make sense?
100%. I actually, like this past year before I moved, I sat down with both of my parents. They're separated, so different times, but
Yeah.
and asked like, I have these memories. Are they true? Like, because like we'll make stuff up in our head,
Hmm.
and like from being on podcasts like this and people asking random questions, I'm like, I might be lying to the public. I don't know if these are true,
Yeah.
And so I sat down literally with my dad and my mom and did we like journaled timeline. I'm like, all right, I was born this date. This is one of
Yeah.
my memories. Is this true? Yes or no? Okay, tell me more. So like I
Yeah.
literally have like a whole 3 pages from each of them. Um,
That's a
that's
good
just
idea.
yeah, it was. I'll be honest, it was kind of it was pretty emotional too. If
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
just like just different stuff we go through as kids and being like, is this an accurate memory of this occasion that happened and this this painful season that we
Sure.
had, is this true, and then getting like the details of it and you're like, oh, that's worse. Like that's
Yeah.
worse than I thought.
I'm going back to my memory.
Yeah, like let's get out of there. So I do recommend doing that. I just recommend being prepared.
Yes, that's a good idea.
It was nice to have clarity though, honestly, and
Yeah.
I think it was really good for my parents as well.
Yeah.
To like walk through some of that stuff. I think maybe some nostalgia too of just like memories of me being a baby and a kid and
Yeah.
how crazy I was and stuff like that. So it was
Yeah.
nice. It was an interesting occasion for sure.
Yeah, I
Um,
think things are, like, different now because when you and I were growing up, right, there wasn't social media and phones that took pictures, so I almost feel like kids might have, like, a better idea, at least through the lens of, like, photographs of what they've experienced in today's day and age, where us, I have, like, a handful of
yeah,
pictures, but, it's always interesting to me when I think about, like, I have a nephew, and he's about to turn 2, but, like, there's a picture of him every day, like,
yeah.
that exists in the world. So,
Like literally everything is like is everything.
everything.
Like not even the cute stuff, like the non-cute stuff, like
All of it.
the things I see when people post their kids on Instagram, like, "You wanna put that on Instagram?" Like,
All
this
of it, every
yeah, like,
day.
um, what, what's the most trouble you've ever been in?
Ooh, the most trouble I've ever been in. I'm not much of a rule breaker
I
or
was
a
gonna say,
trouble
was Tasia a troublemaker or no? I don't really
A
see it.
a troublemaker? I really wasn't. My mom loves telling stories about me being I was a terrible toddler, apparently, like, I had terrible tantrums all the time, would, like, bang on glass doors and just, be totally reckless. So, besides I have never been in, like, real trouble as far as, like, with the law. I got my first speeding ticket last year, which was
Wow.
really upsetting. Um, I'm sorry I'm really boring in that regard.
I just picture, like, a Cookeville cop pulling you over for going 45 and a 35 or something.
I was so
Um,
upset. I was like, "I made it this far. I made it to 31 without a speeding ticket," and it was very valid. And I'm not one of those people like he's like, "Why are you speeding?" I'm like, I don't have a reason. It
yeah,
was
like, what kinda question is that? Because 'Cause I'm trying to get to where I'm going faster.
yeah, because I wanna be home. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, he was like, "Yeah, okay, cool. Here's your ticket."
Dang. Well, what about the opposite? What's like your proudest moment as a kid or maybe a young adult that you can remember?
My proudest moment as a kid. Um, I mean, as a young girl, most of my accomplishments and things were through gymnastics. So I remember, just like hitting new skills or like accomplishing something that I've worked really hard on. Like bars. I don't know if you know much about gymnastics, but like there's a move called the Jaeger, where it's like you like let go and like do a front flip and catch the bar. And I remember like actually catching the bar, because when you practice, you miss it like 1 million times, and then you catch one and you're like, oh my gosh, what just happened? So just kind of like moments like that, seeing hard work kind of come to fruition, would probably be it.
Love that. Um, what what's been your favorite competition in CrossFit so far? Like, you've done some indie stuff, you have some team championships. Which one was your favorite year, I guess, or no, like your favorite actual one competition that you've done?
Yeah, so that's like such an easy question for me, because in 2019, when the team was Rich, me, China, and Dre, of all my competitive seasons of life, just even the training throughout that year with like that's Haley and I were training partners a lot of the time because it was super team, so China didn't live here, and just going head to head with Dre and Rich, it was such a fun experience. And we also, for me, that was like the fittest I felt I had ever been, to go and compete at the games. And like my faith too, that was the most free I felt competing, where I wasn't really weighed down by all this pressure that I was putting on myself. I felt like I wasn't placing my value in the sport, and being able to compete from a space of freedom that year, 2019. Man, it was so fun, and I have so many fond memories from just like working really hard, but having a lot of fun too. And I know you experience that in the environment you're in right now as well.
Yeah, 100%. That's so cool. I mean, like one in a million kind of experience, right?
Yes, I really feel that way. I'm like, I make this joke all the time. I'm like, the only way I'll come out of retirement is if the same team forms, because I know it'll be impossible for it to form. And I'm like, Dre is all of a sudden, he did pretty well in the Open, so he's going to compete in quarterfinals. And I'm like, Dre, you're getting like a little too serious for me this competition. But yeah.
Do you think, I know you probably hate this question, do you think Rich is the fittest person alive, fittest dude alive? Do you think what do you think about that? Because I've heard some Mayhem people say it. I don't have any objections necessarily. I think the dude is one of the freakiest athletes on the planet. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think that is a really complex question. I'm gonna say yes, one, obviously, but it's a complex question in a sense of, I feel like it's comparing apples to oranges, and I know people bring this up, like comparing LeBron to Kobe and things like that, because I'm assuming this is to compare to Matt, who is an absolutely incredibly fit person, and he's the only person who's won 5 in a row individual championships. So, like, if we're going based on that statistic, obviously,
I would say currently, like, because I
oh
don't think Matt's currently the fittest on earth.
no, you mean like as an individual right now?
Yeah.
I think Rich, what he brings to the table is something unique in a sense that nobody else has. He, obviously I've been around a lot of elite athletes, but I've never seen someone be able to like recover the way that he recovers, and to keep going in the capacity that he's been going. Like this is his 10th year aiming for a gold medal. So that means he's competed more than a decade and still maintaining, and not only maintaining, but improving. So I think, yeah, he would give those guys as individuals a run for their money at the top of the individual men's podium. And I think that's such a testament to not only his hard work and everything, but whatever he's made of, whatever is going on inside there to create him to be that fit for so long.
He's not human at all.
Yeah.
Do you have a morning routine or a nighttime routine?
Yeah, I have a very lovely morning routine that I do all the time. I pretty much wake up. I'm really into coffee, so I do a pour over coffee every morning, drink a glass of water, and eat breakfast. And then I spend, depending on the day, I'll spend like 30 minutes to an hour just in the Word and trying to get, my soul and spirit right for the day. And then I get ready. And lately I've been on a kick where I work out in the afternoon, but sometimes depending on what Haley's doing, I'll work out in the morning or afternoon. Only one session a day for me these days. But yeah, my morning routine, I'm pretty, diligent too. I wake up early. Yeah.
I'm big on my morning routine. I've been like shaken up. I don't know, shaken up because I live on the West Coast now. So like,
Oh yeah.
A lot of my calls are with people on the East Coast, like work calls. I have a consulting agency and I work with Underdogs Athletics now. So it's like my morning routine is weird now because I used to comfortably get up at like 6 and be able to flow into like a morning routine. But now like my calls are starting at 7:30.
Yeah.
And I'm like, crap, now I got to get up earlier.
Yeah.
Make breakfast earlier. So
Gotcha.
that's been a tough transition, but for sure worth it. But you got to protect that morning routine. You know what I mean? It's just like an indicator of how your day's going to go.
For sure. And me, I'm not like a night owl person. I wake up pretty early, but when I've tried to, maybe I miss something in the morning and I try to make it up at night, it's always like, I'm like, you have to focus and do this rather than the morning.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah, it's so hard. It's like as the day progresses, I have more and more in my brain, like more and more on my mind. If I sit down in the evening and try to read my Bible or do my journal, I'm like, my brain is like, I'm like faking it, I'm like trying to journal, but I'm like, oh, I got to send this email. You know what I mean? I'm like, so you got to knock it out in the morning. What are you in a devotional or are you reading a certain book in the Bible right now? Or do you jump around? What is that like for you?
Yeah, so I am working through a Bible plan. I use the YouVersion app a ton. That's like something I'm a big fan of. So I'm kind of in multiple places, but right now I'm in Leviticus. That's one of the spots I'm in. And I have a resource that I use online. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Through the Word. And it's an app and it talks through each chapter of the Bible. So when you're in, obviously Leviticus is like a difficult book to read in the Bible. It brings it to life and gives you more context to things that you might not just get from sitting down and like reading the Word. So I use the Through the Word app with that. And then me and my boyfriend are doing a devotional actually on Revelation. So we're kind of like all over the spectrum. But yeah.
Sometimes I'll read the Old Testament for I feel like too long and like because it's just a totally different like stage in the evolution of Christianity. So like I'll get so deep in some Revelation or some Leviticus and be like, man, I got to go into the New Testament for a day and just like get like a refresher. You know what I mean? Because like it's just so much different.
Totally.
Have you ever heard of the Bible Project, the app, the Bible Project?
Oh my gosh. Yes. I love their videos. So the where I'm in Leviticus, I'm going through like one of their things, but I watch like their videos, like the overview of Leviticus.
Game changer.
Yes, it's the best. I love their stuff too. Another great resource.
Yeah, so helpful. I mean, cartoons help me all day. Like,
for sure,
give me some cartoons to help understand the Bible, and I will keep reading, especially Leviticus.
Yeah.
What's your favorite CrossFit workout?
Easy DT or heavy DT or double DT. One version of DT.
That was pretty quick.
I love barbell workouts, just all barbell.
Same. Not necessarily that I'm that good at them. I just prefer to have one element. What aside from Haley, who's your favorite CrossFit athlete? Like, who are you the biggest fan of?
Oh my gosh, aside from Haley.
That's gonna be a tough question for you.
This is such a tough question because there's so many women in the space that I'm just like,
I'm not gonna make you answer that question.
Yeah, don't make me answer because I'll just start naming them all off.
I don't want like 19 other girls to be salty with you after this. So, but what else? All right, so we typically flow through at the end. Like I've got a couple rapid fire questions that I think are fun, and then a couple longer winded, maybe deeper thinking questions. I'm gonna just bounce around in them before we close out today. The first one is, and you may have heard this question before. I get it from Tim Ferriss, who I think is an excellent podcaster and writer. If you could put anything on a big blank billboard for the whole world to see, what would the billboard say?
You are loved. Period.
That's wild. Because well, first of all, that's what mine would say.
Oh.
And then as I asked the question, I was like, I bet she's going to say this because one other person has said it. They were a believer as well. It was, who did I have on?
I can't remember either.
But gosh, that's so wild. Alex, can you pull up like our Instagram and see?
Yeah. Let me look.
It was like 3 or 4 interviews ago.
It wasn't Amanda Barnhart, was it?
It was Amanda Barnhart. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's where my mind was going.
Yeah, and like my psychology, which is the same as Amanda's, and you might be able to agree, is like I would of course rather have like Jesus loves you, but those kind of billboards can sometimes turn people off. And so I just think it's important to generally know like, hey, you're loved. And if that leads you to thinking about God, then that's great too. So crazy. Love that. Okay. If you had to, you're going to hate this question, but I actually got this question from sitting in Buffalo Brew.
Oh goodness.
With Chris and the crew.
I'm scared.
You should be. It's horrible. It's actually like he didn't make it up. I think it's called like the train question or something like that. If you had the choice, it's called the Trolley Dilemma. But if you had to choose between a loved one on one track and 5 strangers on another track, and you got to choose where the train goes, what are you choosing?
Wait, it's just a random train?
It's a random train. It's gotta hit one group or the other. One track has a loved one. The other track has 5 people that you
wait, to hurt them, not to see them.
It's a dilemma. Yeah.
I don't want to answer.
Not to see them.
I thought it was like to go on like a trip to see them. I'm like, probably the loved one.
Do I get to meet 5 strangers?
I'm like, I think 5 strangers meeting them sounds kind of, stressful. I can't wait. Did you actually have an answer? Do you actually answer this?
Yeah. It's difficult. I think it gets easier if I were to say like 100 strangers are going to get hit by a train or one loved one. That's a little bit easier for me to be like, well, I'm going to save 100 people. I'm sorry. But I think it's also easier. Like I'm not married and I don't have children. So like to know that kind of love, I think is different too. So the question continues to get more complex, the more, maybe the more complex your love life is. But if you would have been in Buffalo Brew, you would have heard some savage answers.
Well, yeah, because I'm like, well, if I make the choice, well, my life's just doomed after that because I'm going to be thinking about either the loved one that I sent to their death or the 5 other people that lost their lives to their families and stuff. So I'm going to be like a loser and not answer.
It's another non-answer.
Non-answer.
Okay, that's fair. I think that's just a testament to your
I can't do it.
Noted. Tasia cannot kill anybody with a train.
I'll just throw myself in the front of
there you go. Are you a reader?
Yes.
What is your favorite book and what are you currently reading?
My favorite book of all time. I'm trying to think. There's a lot of books that I really love, like The Alchemist. I really love that book. I haven't read it in a long time, but that was one that I remember when I read it. It was really good. I'm like literally sitting next to my my book stand. But I read The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, and I really loved that. The Body Keeps the Score is another book. These are like into all 3 different realms. Favorite books. Right now I'm reading The Midnight Library. It's taking me a minute to get through it because I'm also doing some school reading because I'm in a class to get my nutritional therapy practitioner. So I'm reading like motivational interviewing and things like that. So my reading is on the low scale right now as far as for pleasure because I'm reading for school.
I know how that is.
Real quick, just a good book recommendation: The Genius Life.
Ooh.
By Max Lugavere.
Okay.
He wrote this other book that was called Genius Foods, and it's amazing. It basically stemmed from his mom getting diagnosed with Alzheimer's in like her 50s, and he was very confused because he thought it was kind of an old person's disease. Yeah. And he discovered a lot about how oils and stuff in our food. He's not a doctor. He just went on like a research binge himself, and how everything crosses the blood-brain barrier. But Genius Life, it has nutritional stuff, but then also just good habits for living kind of like A Genius Life. And then Genius Foods, that was his first book, which has all the chapters detail certain foods like extra virgin olive oil or avocados. But you both would probably be interested in it just because of what you do. So
Yeah,
just a
for
quick
sure.
recommendation.
I'll definitely check that out.
I read the first one. I've got the first one. Genius
All right,
Food.
cool. Yeah, it's a good one.
Thank you for that, Alex. I also love how you like your face isn't showing up right now, so we just have this like third voice. You know?
Yeah,
I know. I didn't know you were
Comes in out
even
of
there
nowhere.
until the first time you came in. I was like, oh my gosh, I thought he left.
from the heavens. Yeah.
What's your favorite cereal?
Ooh, s'mores.
Ooh, okay.
Have you ever tried it? It's so
No,
good.
I don't think so. I'm like,
It's like
I've jumped back on a cereal kick, just because I'm training way more than I used to, and so I just feel like I can justify it. Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Reese's
Love
Puffs, and Captain Crunch are like all three an equal fave for me.
Okay, those
So-
are all good. I also like the cereals that like pretend like they're healthy, like Honey Bunches of Oats. And I'm like, I love this
Yeah.
cereal.
When people say that, I'm like, is that really your favorite though?
It's so good though. Same with like Raisin Bran Crunch is low key. Like I tried this Cheerios. It was like a Cheerio Crunch cereal, which Cheerios also like, you know, pretend like they're healthy. And it was like one of the best cereals I've ever had. So
Noted. I guess I'll expand my horizons at some point.
you got to.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Tacos or pizza?
Tacos.
Why?
I feel like there's just so many varieties that I can
You got
pick
more
from.
options, yeah.
Yeah.
And you can have small tacos. You can eat like 10 tacos and not feel bad about yourself, but like typically
Love
10
it.
slices of pizza is gonna do you in.
You're not gonna feel good.
Yeah. Still might do it though. But
True.
if you what I want to ask next? Oh, if you could choose to talk to all animals, like you can understand them and
Ooh.
speak with them, or know all languages on Earth, like all human languages, which would you choose?
All human languages.
Okay. A little more practical.
I just would love to just speak to, you know, people that I normally wouldn't be able to speak to. Like even Roman's here.
I was
and
gonna say
he-
Roman's in Cookville right now, right?
Yeah, and he doesn't speak any English, which is you know, hard to communicate, right? Because we communicate a lot and just smiles. So I'd love to be able to speak to
You're like-
him. Or when I went to Shanghai, everyone spoke Mandarin there, and we didn't speak. Obviously, I don't speak any Mandarin, and so that language barrier is huge, and you don't realize it when you're, you know, in the United States, and most everyone speaks English. So I would love to speak all languages.
Got it.
Maybe a party trick too. Just be like,
Yeah, like every secret agent movie where they're like riding in a taxi and the taxi driver is like an evil person, starts speaking
Yeah.
in Russian or Mandarin, and the guy in the back seat's like starts speaking in it too. And
I
they're
would
like,
do that all the time.
Just wait for people to say something silly about you, and you're like, I also know your language. Yeah, that would really help, especially at Mayhem. I mean, y'all have a lot of different, y'all have a diverse, a growing level of diversity there.
Yeah, I would like love to speak to animals, but I just think about my roommate's dog, and he'd be like, "Give me a snack," and I'd be like,
yeah,
"I knew
you
you
pretty
were
much
saying
know
that
what
in
animal
dog language."
Yeah. What is it? Is Roman doing quarterfinals there?
Yes.
That's crazy. The dynamic must be so interesting. Are you guys using Google Translate? Like is it? Because Snorri's not there. He doesn't have an interpreter there, right?
No, so I haven't spent a ton of time with him, but he understands CrossFit lingo. So like if you write a CrossFit workout on the board, he understands that. And then Google Translate, like if he wants to write out a sentence or vice versa, just on the phone. Like, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's so interesting. So cool though. Like thankfully we have the technology to support something like that.
Totally.
Thankfully he got to come over here. It's a really complicated scenario right now. Last question. How do you want to be remembered at the end of your life? How do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as somebody who loved well, who just spread a lot of love and loved people well.
Love it. Well, Tasia, you're awesome. I really appreciate you making the time and jumping on the show. I'm sure the audience and everybody who will tune in will enjoy it as well. You have anything you want to say before we close out?
No, thank you so much for having me. I had a great time. This was a lot of fun. So, yeah, I appreciate y'all.
Absolutely. Likewise. Well, thanks again, Tasia. And hopefully I will make a trip to Cookeville sooner than later and see you again in person.
Yes, please. We'd love that.
See ya.
Bye.